is my first video that I'm doing, and I am going to talk about stereotypes associated with foster care children and or even, vulnerable adults. When I say foster care, I'm also referring to group homes. Okay, so there's many different stereotypes about why children end up getting placed in the foster care system. Well, I'm hoping to squash some of the stereotypes and enlighten you of the many different reasons why children get placed in foster care. Many reasons. All right, so one reason could be the parent or guardian has died, and then a child gets placed in the foster care system because social services needs to look for someone who can take this child or children in to have a permanent home. All right, so then they place the child in the foster care system, and then hopefully a family member will be able to take the child in, and if not a family member, then some external person somewhere. Okay, that's one example. Another example could be because of neglect. Sometimes parents or guardians neglect their child, not because of poverty. If it's because of poverty or whatever, that's a different situation. But if you're willfully neglecting the child, then that's when social services typically needs to step in and try something. If it's a priority, it could be, sometimes when you're working for social services and, you work in a huge city, you gotta prioritize what, is most important to deal with first. So sometimes kids that are getting neglected end up being last on the list, unfortunately, as far as taking the case as seriously as they should, from my experience of what I've seen. But anyway, that's one example. Neglect is an example of why a child can get placed in the foster system, and a parent or guardian usually needs to work on certain things in order to gain their child or children back. Same thing with abuse. However, there could be situations where the child is placed in the foster care system and the parent cannot have rights to the child for a period of time, or the parent cannot have any rights to the child for life. So in my situation, I was put in the foster system at the age of 3, and my mother and the man on my birth certificate, I say the man on my birth certificate because by blood he is not my father. Never met the man, heard he died when I was 13. No blood relation to me at all. Anyway, my mother and he was incarcerated, and so when that happened, the state of Minnesota said, "Oh, sorry, you don't have any rights to her. You cannot see her until she willfully goes to you at age 18." So in that instance, I was supposed to be placed up for adoption. The state of Minnesota failed me completely. I did not find out until the age of 12 that I was supposed to be placed up for adoption. Yes, that shit actually happens. It's rare. I think that it's rare, but it really does happen. So that's one example of why a child can be placed in the foster system. Another stereotype that might be about kids in the foster system is that they all automatically go to strangers. And that's not always true. There's a thing called family home placement, where the child is still in foster care, but they get placed with a family member, and that family member still gets the cash and, free food from school benefits that a regular foster care parent would be able to have. I believe they do that because they are hoping that the family member will be able to adopt the child. In my case, that's also what happened. So from age 5 to 9, I was sent over to California and placed with my great uncle and his wife, and I was not adopted. So then I was sent back over into Minnesota. So actually from age 0 to 3, I was in California. 3 to 5, I was in Minnesota, and then 5 to 9, California, And then from 9 until the present, I have been in Minnesota. So that is my part of my story, just a little fraction. Anyway, another reason why somebody can be placed in foster care is because sometimes the child is actually the one doing the abusing. A parent or guardian may be maybe sick of them and want them to be thrown in the foster system for some reason voluntarily. Sometimes it's a court order why a foster child can be put in the foster system. Sometimes the parent has a mental illness. You know, my mother had like lots of mental illnesses. Well, not lots, like enough. Anyway, and that probably maybe contributed to her being incarcerated. Who knows? Anyway, so yeah, there's a bunch of different reasons why kids can be placed in the foster system. And no, it's not always the child is with a stranger. Sometimes it is a family member. So why don't you drop a few comments and tell me, what stereotypes have you heard of about kids placed in the foster system? When I was in northern Minnesota, I heard the stereotype that, oh, bad kids get placed in the foster system. Only bad kids are in the foster system. They're there because they were bad, not because anything happened to them. Well, that was not true. I literally did nothing to deserve to be put in the foster system. Okay, so anyway, drop some of the comments. I want to see what kind of stereotypes have you heard of about kids being in the foster system. All right.